Hello, it's sammyq, and it's been not sure how long. Let's find out together. It has been 7 months since my last upload. I don't do this as a full-time job right now, so I mean, I've got my career to worry about. I've also moved into my own apartment. If this video gets 1,000 likes before the end of 2023, I'll do an apartment tour. I don't think that's gonna happen, so I'm okay with setting that goal. So this is obviously another keyboard video. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the Mellitrix Zoom TKL. You can't currently buy this keyboard, it's not in stock. I participated in the group buy back in November, and it arrived recently. So this is actually the first keyboard I've had to put together completely from scratch. That's like, you know, attaching the stabs to the PCB, putting the foam, putting on the plate, putting everything in the case. And I sort of am going to give you guys an abridged version of that. Yup. And as always, there's going to be a sound test at the end. So obviously, if you enjoyed that, go ahead and give this a watch. Watch it all the way through to the end, including the sound test. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new. So let's go ahead and get started. So inside the big box was in fact 2 smaller boxes, shocker. The smaller box on top here are the glass plates which go onto the back of the case. I got sky blue for both the case and the glass plates, but it's worth noting that you can mix and match them. Then inside this bigger box is a carrying case, and inside that carrying case are some tools to build the keyboard and the actual sky blue case itself. The first thing of note here is going to be all of this foam we've got. We've got case foam, we've got PCB foam, we got foam for days. As someone who likes to stuff their cases with foam, this makes me very happy. Next up is the PCB, which supports custom firmware and Bluetooth, so that's pretty cool. And then the polycarbonate plate. There was an option for an aluminum plate, but in my opinion, polycarbonate is just better, especially if you want a more deep, thocky sound. Yuck. Next up, we've got the case itself, which looks absolutely gorgeous, and I wouldn't be mad if you wanted to give it a little kiss. Go ahead, just give it a little smooch. The top part has some goodies as well, namely the battery, and you can see how long it takes me to get it open, which is kind of funny, but in my defense it was glued on there pretty hard. The battery is pretty small and should be safe to put foam on top of. It's worth noting that the final build does include the battery, but while you're seeing me put it together, you might not see the battery. We got a coiled cable, which is both new and fun for me. We've got the gaskets, which will help our typing experience feel more pillowy. And then we've got the stabilizers. I'm not going to use these stabilizers. Instead, I'm going to use some Durox screw-ins, which I have pre-lubed because they're generally higher quality. And then lastly, we've got some rubber feet in black and white. We're going to start with the PCB, and we'll lay this pour-on PCB switch foam on top of it. It goes in between where the switches in PCB would make contact, and it can only go one way, so be sure to line it up carefully. Any switch installed on this PCB will be south-facing, however the spacebar and caps lock support both directions. Next, you're going to hold it in place temporarily with 4 switches. It doesn't matter what switches these are because ultimately these will get taken out after we do the next step. Here's a quick little close-up. Next up, we're going to install the stabilizers. First, click them into the PCB. They can only be installed one way, so be careful. Before you do any screwing, just make sure they move up and down without issue. Next, you're going to attach your little washers to each of these stabilizer screws, which sucks if you have big hands like I do. And then you want to very carefully and slowly drive the screw in on the opposite side of the PCB, making sure to provide support with your other hand and not screw it too tight. As an aside, this was my electric screwdriver's swan song performance because the charging port decided not to work after this project. Yuck. Next, we'll take out the temporary switches and put on the pour-on PCB foam. Ooh yeah, look at that peel. Oh, that's a good peel. That peel was protecting a sticky side, and at the risk of sounding like a broken record, the PCB foam can only go on one way. It is intended to go on the back of the PCB, so very carefully line it up and apply it, and then smooth out any edges if you have to. Next, we'll flip our PCB back over, and then we'll put on the pour-on plate foam, which again can only go one way. Then the polycarbonate plate itself, and with a little bit of magic, we'll put our switches in. These switches are the ACO V3 cream yellows. As the name implies, they do sound very creamy, especially when you lube them. I didn't realize what I was saying until after I said it. They're pretty cheap on Amazon too. I got 135 switches for $42. Next, we'll unscrew the case so we can start putting it all together. Next, we'll put the battery in that little divot there, making sure the label is facing down and that the cord connected to the battery is closest to the daughter board. This is the point in the video where you'll see the battery disappear, but just know that it is in the final build. I should have mentioned this earlier, but the battery is an optional inclusion, which is why you get an extra piece of foam about the size of the battery to put in that divot. Some kits came with metal weights. Mine came with more case foam to put in this bigger divot here. Here you can watch me struggle to connect the daughter board to the PCB. And again, say it with me, this connector can only go in one way. This would also be where you connect the battery to its port on the PCB. Next up is the gaskets. You'll notice that the plate has these pegs on it. What you're going to do is you're going to thread one gasket in between two of these legs, kind of like you're putting on a sock. Actually, almost exactly like putting on a sock, because you get it about halfway and then you somehow struggle to put it on the rest of the way. Then let's screw it all back together, because I totally didn't forget to screw in the back plates. Oh wait, we'll get back to that. Next, I'm attaching some feet. One foot has pegs and goes into the screw holes. The other one sticks to the opposite side in a little divot there. You might not be able to see it in the video, but it is there. Next, I'm attaching the plates here, and they do have these pegs that go into holes, and I didn't know this until after the fact, but you do have to screw them in from the other side. So off camera, I unscrewed the case, screwed the back plates, and then screwed the case back together. Add some keycaps, and we've got ourselves a keyboard. These are some extra Keychron brand keycaps that I had lying around, and while they do look nice, I wasn't immediately blown away by how this looked with the white and gray, so I got a second set. These are probably clones that I got on Amazon pretty cheap. They're supposed to be evocative of a hammerhead shark, and I kind of get that vibe. Now, while this PCB doesn't have per key RGB, it does have some pretty impressive RGB underglow, which you'll be able to see if I can ever figure out where the damn hole is. I heard that one as it was coming out of my mouth. Damn, ain't that pretty. There are a bunch of different color options, which you can change with hotkeys. And like I said before, the whole keyboard is programmable with custom firmware and the VIA software. So that was the Zoom TKL. I think this is a great option for beginners. It's a great budget option in general, and it's just a solid keyboard. It's got optional Bluetooth, it's completely programmable, and it comes in a bunch of different customizable colors which you can mix and match. My only gripe with it is that it was a group buy and it's not in stock. I don't know when it'll be back in stock again or when they'll do another round of purchasing. I'll try to keep the description of the video updated about that kind of stuff. Overall, I really like this keyboard. It's 100% worth the money, and I would buy it again in a heartbeat. Now let's get to that sound test I promised. I'm sure that's why a lot of you are watching this video at all. I really do hope you enjoyed. Please watch all the way through. Again, leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment telling me what you think of the board, or if you think that I'm bad at building keyboards, or about anything. I like reading comments. Let's go!